Good afternoon. On behalf of the chaplains of the Claremont Colleges, it is my pleasure to welcome you today to the 2014 Interfaith Baccalaureate Ceremony. At the beginning of Commencement Weekend, this service is an opportunity to honor the sacred, to remember the sources of meaning, perseverance, and purpose that have carried all of our graduates and all of us to this very moment, and that will carry us into the future. Today, through beautiful music, profound student reflections, and remarks from our distinguished speaker, let us remember and honor that which is most central to our sense of being in the world. In respect for all who are gathered here, I remind you to please silence your cell phones or any other device that might cause distraction. And also, as we are in this beautiful space, I point your attention to the emergency exits in the unlikely event that they are needed. Most importantly, welcome again, and congratulations to the class of 2014.
As Chair of the Council of Presidents of the Claremont Colleges and President of Pomona College, I welcome all of you, members of the class of 2014, together with your family and friends, to this baccalaureate service. The graduation season is naturally one in which you look back, reminiscing, I hope fondly, about your 4 years on campus, recalling your first days here, friendships you have made. I trust you will also look back on challenges that you faced and learned from, as dealing with difficulty is just as important a part of your education. Sometimes alumni who look back on their college years as the best years of their lives are looking through rose-colored glasses. Yes, I hope these have been wonderful years for each of you, but today we celebrate obstacles overcome as well as successes and honors. At graduation, we also look forward toward new opportunities, jobs, further schooling, travel, often far across the country or around the world. The education you have received here has prepared you well for such a future. Do not forget that you carry with you obligations to make the world a better place. On the Pomona College gates is carved the 1914 charge, exactly 100 years ago, from our fourth president, James Blaisdell. Bear your added riches in trust with humankind. The privilege of the education you have received here in Claremont carries with it the responsibility to use that education to make a difference in the world. As you look to the past and to the future, take the time also to look inward. In your busy lives, which will no doubt become even busier in the future, pause to reflect. In the words of the Quaker prayer, now a familiar hymn, speak through the earthquake, wind, and fire, O still small voice of calm. Pay heed to that voice which calls you into relationship with one another, with the world around you, and with the power that lies beyond you. Find the time to reflect on and to strengthen the moral and spiritual values that undergird your lives. You are all called to change the world in small as well as in big ways. Yes, some of you will achieve positions of high influence where you can change policies and affect many lives. Others of you will act at times and places you may least expect, finding opportunity to build community around you, to reach out to those who are lost or alienated, and to make a difference for others. Seize that opportunity.
Oh, one's spirituality is not separate from one's education. My spirituality feeds or is fed by my education. Here today, I would like to acknowledge the things I do not know. For that is the first step that I need to take in order to get to know it. I would like to acknowledge my erratic mind, for its flighty, fleeting tendencies need to be befriended and understood. I would like to acknowledge the pain I feel, for enclosed in it are the seeds of joy, love, and care that I carry. I would like to acknowledge my vulnerabilities, for they allow me to share myself honestly. I would like to acknowledge the darkness that I am in, for it is my only companion in looking for any light that I am trying to find. My spiritual background is centered on the Vedantic tradition in Hinduism, which I consider a subversive section of the Hindu culture. It has allowed me to challenge myself, challenge the prevalent status quo, question my assumptions about the world, and open up to new experiences. It has guided me to listen and to come to my own understanding of my experiences, rather than rely on any authority. With it, I have gathered a newfound appreciation for darkness. My entire journey dwells in it. I need to embrace it, for my spirituality is not one of fear. I do not seek to dismiss darkness or to conquer it. Rather, I seek to relate to it, to identify with it, and to let it lead me to find things that are hidden inside it. Sometimes I think I'm in too much of a hurry to learn, that I am impatient. But here I would like to acknowledge that my learning thus far has been slow and organic. But before I know it, I am blossoming, very much like the summer crops of the Pomona College Organic Farm, which I would highly recommend that you check out once you're done listening to us here, or sometime this weekend. I am departed from the Claremont colleges, not able to see too far ahead, but with an inexplicable excitement about the abundance right around me that I am here to discover. I am amazed by our interconnectedness. Thank you to each and every one of you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the ever merciful, the most beneficent. We all have stories to tell, and looking at your faces here today, I know that you have stories to tell. And some of those are stories of hope, fear, failure, triumph, struggle, strength. However tragic some of those stories are, it's what brought us here today together. To tell those stories in celebration of an accomplishment, and also to tell those stories in the context of religious diversity and inclusion. Growing up Muslim and Black and female, my parents always encouraged me to take the world by my bare hands. And in my household, can't wasn't something we were allowed to say. And they always told me to run with the wolves in their own words. And coming to Claremont in 1995 to CMC as an undergraduate, I was a Black student. There wasn't anything else about it as far as religious, although I was Muslim. However, after 9/11, I decided to wear the headscarf in 99. For the next 15 years, I wore a headscarf. So after 9/11, I decided to go back to get my PhD. That was my first time in a classroom with a headscarf. That's when suddenly I wasn't so Black, I was Muslim now. And some of the things I experienced weren't too great, but I did what I think any PhD student would do, and I turned those experiences that bothered me in the classroom into research. And I wanted to see what other Muslim women who were wearing headscarves had to go through in higher education, if anything at all. So during my studies in my PhD program, I worked full-time, had a husband, had a daughter as well, and I was extremely busy. And because of overexertion, I really had to start paying attention to my heart and my mind, not just my brain and my intellect and the things I could accomplish on paper. So I started thinking about Imam Ghazali's words, where he said, don't gain the world and lose your soul in the process. And that's something that's stuck with me since then. And my Islam is something that helped me along the way when I was struggling emotionally throughout my academic program, where it let me see that I was much more than pulling all-nighters. I was much more than competing for accolades and honors, much more than burning out over papers in my dissertation, or the framed paper that I would display in my office someday that would say, I am worthy. So even now, I remember that my intellect and my academic achievements aren't the whole of me. And I hope that you'll do the same. We're more than tests that evaluate us. We're more than committees that will select us or reject us. We're more than reviewers that will approve us or departments that will showcase us as their best students. We're far more than the eyes can see, the ears can hear, and the hands can touch. So as we go out into the world outside of academia, let's not allow our ego to drive us into ethical, spiritual, and emotional gutters. Rumi once wrote, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Let's not be afraid to let that light enter into those vulnerable spaces. To the women in the audience especially, don't ever dim your light for anyone. If you must, blind them. So my parting wish for all of us is that we not only live our dreams, but we also make sure we're in positions to allow others to do the same. In the words of Prophet Muhammad, he said every person starts his day as a vendor of his soul, either freeing it or carving it ruin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace upon you all, and the blessings and mercy of God on all of us.
to Harvey Mudd College in 2008 and had an amazing freshman year. Then I took 2 years off to serve as a proselyting missionary. And I was called to serve in Siberia, Central Russia. And a lot of people have asked me, what did you do to get sent to Siberia? Well, what I can tell you is what being sent to Siberia did for me. It opened my mind to the reality that college is a very self-centered time. Someone cooks for me, cleans for me to some extent, and all I have to worry about are my grades and my future. In contrast, serving as a missionary not only meant that I was cooking and cleaning for myself, but striving to dedicate every waking hour to serving others. And it was the most exhausting time of my life. This is coming from a mudder. I haven't the time to tell 100th of my stories, as I was trying to share my testimony of the Savior and mostly facing cold rejection each day. I had the opportunity, though, to teach a man who was interested in the church, and he and his wife eventually decided to be baptized. And I remember the pure happiness that everyone felt on that day. That was about 4 years ago. I hadn't seen him or his wife or 3-year-old son for the past 3 years until 2 days ago, when he flew into Los Angeles to see the sights. And I spent yesterday with him at Disneyland, where he told me about their new baby boy and how his business is booming and all the other wonderful happenings in his life since we last met. And he's in the audience today. I think he enjoyed that Russian hymn that was sung first. These and other sweet experiences have taken my conversion to the gospel of Jesus Christ from a cerebral understanding to more of a heartfelt conviction. And I feel like I know better today, or at least have a better understanding of what's really important in my life. And I'm reminded of one of my favorite scriptures frequently. It's that, remember that it is upon the rock of our Redeemer, who is Christ, the Son of God, that ye must build your foundation, which is a sure foundation, a foundation whereon if men build, they cannot fall.
She smiled and suggested I come to work at the chaplain's office as a student employee on Fridays so I could help students cook for Shabbat and help out at the front desk of the McAllister Center. It was from this moment that I became connected to the Jewish community on campus. Being a part of the Claremont Jewish community has not only made the college experience fulfilling, it has connected me to others and to my faith. Hillel is where I nourished my body and soul at Shabbat dinners, where I developed my leadership potential as a part of the Hillel board, and where I found my best friends. This community is also how I, as a Jewish student, connected to God during my college experience. Hilda Specter Morgenstern said, "According to my religion, it is not possible to love and serve God unless we also love and serve our fellow men in our community." I wholeheartedly agree, although I would have added women too. Thus, it is only when I nurture my relationships with others in my community that I am able to serve and love God. This is one way that being in the Jewish community has informed my identity and relationship with God while in college. Another result of being hired as a student employee is what I've experienced behind the desk of the McAllister Center, where I was often approached by prospective students. Every time I spoke with them about Jewish life at the Claremont colleges, I was reminded about how fortunate I am to have a Jewish community encouraging my engagement and nurturing my growth. When I talked to the prospective students, I could tell that my words were not the most effective thing conveyed. Rather, it was the sincerity in my eyes, the natural passion in my voice, and the huge smile on my face as I recalled the people and times that made my college experience meaningful. I didn't struggle to convince people how amazing Claremont is, because it truly is, in large part due to the communities fostered by the chaplain's office. I would like to thank the chaplain's office for an amazing 4 years of work, leadership, community, and for giving me the confidence to promise the same to every future student who steps foot in the McAllister Center. And to all the graduates, I wish for us peaceful journeys that bring us love, happiness, and fulfillment. Thank you.
The story of your college career is a story of concentric circles. Starting off with freshman year introductions. What's your name? Where are you from? What are you thinking of studying? These are the first questions you'll get from your initial freshman friend groups. People you'll eat dinner with, study with, party with, and lean on in good and bad times. Some of these will even become lifelong friends. You'll find another community in your academic classes. Early on in my college career, I had the opportunity to study math with CMC Professor Axelway, who after I'd taken several classes with her, once hunted me down in a computer lab and convinced me to take basic algebra. That didn't end very well. But the care that she showed is reflective of the care and compassion that all professors show to us students, something we heartily thank them for.
There comes a time in every student's life when he or she branches out beyond these built-in communities to something broader: jobs, clubs, volunteer activities. Ben and I have both been very involved in the McAllister Center. Initially drawn in by the weekend-long beach retreat at Malibu, we've eventually come to be leaders in the Catholic group, doing everything from leading mass and music events, and organizing that annual retreat. Our involvement at McAllister has extended even beyond this Catholic group more recently through the educational and service opportunities put together by the Multi-Faith Service Council, a group that promotes interfaith dialogue and organizes service events. Events that have given me and countless other UNC students the opportunity to work outside of these campuses and to contribute to the community at large.
By the time you're a senior, I hope you'll have been part of a group that allows you to give back to your community. This year, I had the opportunity of being part of 17 other RAs at CMC, working to promote positive change in the community while maintaining a fun and safe environment. I'm lucky to have gone to work with individuals of different values, faiths, backgrounds, and traditions that came together towards a common goal for a greater CMC and 5C community.
Judging from my interactions with alumni over the last few years, I know that this sense of community will continue far beyond graduation as we connect the campus to the outside world socially and professionally. The love and support doesn't end this weekend as we pack our lives away and leave town. This Claremont community will continue to add something to each of us as we continue to add to it.
Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Coming to the Keck Graduate Institute was probably the best decision I could have ever made Facebook-wise. It sounds kind of weird because it's a hardcore science program for biotech and pharmaceutical sciences. But it's true. I had grown all that I could at my home church in Thousand Oaks, California, and it was time for me to move on. The first year was tough, probably the toughest thing I've ever done. And I found a core group of friends on campus, but I also found a core group of friends at Pomona First Baptist. I learned a ton about my limits and about my faith as I jumped right into ministry both at PFB and on campus. The second fall, beginning of this year, I lost what I thought was my ministry calling, and I was devastated. As a second year, I was also applying to jobs, and I was having a really hard time, and I was again devastated. So I reached out to a friend, and she reminded me that God is good in all things. He doesn't change, and He provides, and that's very true. So since the beginning of 2014, I have given my professional career over to God. That does not mean that I'm not applying to positions. It also does not mean that I'm not interested in working in the biotech or the pharmaceutical industries. It just means that I'm no longer worried about it. So currently, I'm unemployed, and it's okay. And it's, again, okay because God provides. And I know it's really easy to say that, but it's true, especially if we look at Philippians 4, verses 4 through 7. Thanks.
The late author and Pomona professor David Foster Wallace, in his 2005 commencement address to the graduates of Kenyon College, stated, "Here's something that's weird but true. In the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there's actually no such thing as atheism. There's no such thing as not worshiping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. And the compelling reason for maybe choosing some sort of God or spiritual type thing to worship, be it JC or Allah, be it Yahweh or the Wiccan Mother Goddess, or the Four Noble Truths, or some inviolable set of ethical principles, is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive. If you worship money and things, if they are where you tap real meaning in life, you will never have enough. You will never feel you have enough. It's the truth. Worship your body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly. And when time and age start showing, you will die a million deaths before they finally greet you. On one level, we all know this stuff already. It's been codified as myths, proverbs, cliches, epigrams, parables, the skeleton of every great story. The whole trick is keeping the truth up front in daily consciousness." End quote. As a seeker, I aspire to embody this truth Wallace speaks of. So far, on my albeit limited meditative travels, I haven't had much luck with this. But I have learned a lot about how difficult it is to refrain from the type of worship Wallace warns us about, especially when immersed in an environment like the 7 C's that so strongly encourages us to get ahead in our capitalist society. I want to thank those who have helped me combat this frenetic quest. If we remain attentive to our worshiping habits, our open minds will be forever commencing.
Good afternoon. I am delighted to introduce and welcome our guest speaker today, Dr. Wendy Mogul. Dr. Mogul is a clinical psychologist specializing in parenting. She's a frequent guest on the NBC Today show and is regularly interviewed by the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and NPR. She delivers keynote addresses to audiences of parents, educators, clergy, camp directors, and mental health professionals around the world, including recent lectures in China and at the Young Minds Conference in Sydney, Australia. She serves on the Scientific Advisory Board of Parents Magazine and is a research and policy advisor for Challenge Success, a child advocacy program at the Stanford University School of Education. Publishers Weekly described her New York Times best-selling book, The Blessing of a Skinned Knee, as impassioned, lyrical, and eminently practical, a real treasure. Rabbi Harold Kushner, author of When Bad Things Happen to Good People, called her second book, The Blessing of a B-, wise, witty, and well-written, a treasure of common sense for anyone dealing with adolescence. Included among her many published articles are Why Secrets Matter to Children, Overparenting Anonymous, Kicking the Tutoring Habit, and my personal favorite, Mom, Resist the Urge to Kill Your Teenager. A graduate of Middlebury College, Dr. Mogul completed an internship and postdoctoral fellowship in the Department of Psychiatry at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, where she lives and practices. I'm also delighted to introduce Dr. Mogul today as a Pitzer parent. Her daughter will be graduating from Pitzer College tomorrow morning. She will be presenting her talk, Ben Franklin's Life Hack, Borrow a Very Certain Scarce and Curious Book. Dr. Mogul, welcome.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was a beautiful introduction. I am honored and delighted to be here. My little green room was in the music building before I came over to Little Bridges, and I'm always very nosy. I was in a music professor's office, so I was looking at his bookshelf, and I saw 3 titles that just made me so much happier than I was even when I woke up this morning. The Singing Life of Birds, Why Birds Sing, and How to Talk About Books You Haven't Read. A kindergarten teacher told me recently that she had a parent-teacher conference with 2 physician parents. And she loved young Trevor, her kindergarten student, because of his tremendous passion for sharks, his love of books about sharks, and his willingness to share his knowledge of sharks with other students. So she talked about this a great deal, and then she was wrapping up the conference when the dad leaned in and looked at her very seriously, and he said, we know all about the shark stuff, and this is very nice, but frankly, we don't feel that your kindergarten curriculum has Trevor on a proper pre-med track. So the teacher looked at both of the parents, and she was a very experienced, cool kindergarten teacher, and she said, Trevor peed in his pants yesterday. I don't think we need to be worrying about medical school quite yet. So this story reminded me of a mother who on a book signing line. So on the book signing line, it's always the end of the day, and I'm kind of tired. I'm in another time zone. I develop a slight impulse control disorder. And a mother leaned over to me. This was in the South, and she said, Dr. Mogul, our 5-year-old son is a certified genius. And I looked at her and I said, it goes away. Just wait for Algebra 2. God! Another mother said to me, she said, I really enjoyed The Blessing of the Skin. It was a wonderful book, very helpful to me. She said, I have your other book on my night table. She said, but I cannot open it because the title, this was The Blessing of the B-. She said, the title makes me want to throw up. Oh, very kind of her. And finally, I overheard in a college dining hall, not one of the glorious 7 C's, but elsewhere. I overheard a student, this was a couple of years ago, when students still talk to their parents on cell phones instead of just texting. So I overheard a student say to her mother, do I like Russian dressing, Mom? And I thought, you could know this by now. Or you could make your own decision and it would not be the end of the day. parents did not show you an X Games level of devotion, even if they had to work very long hours or were ill or absent, every single one of the graduates in this room had an adult who supported your growth, who contributed to your success in winning a spot at one of these 7 glorious schools. And once you arrived here, you found a new potential cheering gallery, professors and staff, adults with titles and offices and .edu email addresses, people who had chosen as their profession the stewardship of young adults. And unless you're going straight to graduate school in the fall, you are leaving the world of structured resources, of deans and office hours and web portals with all the information needed to complete assignments and be successful. So how do you recruit a team of inspiring and supportive mentors into your life at this juncture? You can rehire your parents as managers and a public relations firm. Your parents who say things like, she breathed in, then after that she breathed out. Or I had a mom in my office yesterday. I do parent guidance and psychotherapy, and she said, I mentioned to her that I noticed on my chart that her daughter's 5th birthday was coming up, and she said to me, I know, isn't it so sad? So I think that for the parents here that college graduation could be kind of bittersweet. You may be laid off from your job of the cheering section, and that there's good research behind why reaching beyond the familiar is a very good tactic for students. So any sociology majors here? Do you know about the strength of weak ties? It's a very fantastic paradoxical theory that says that the people you don't know are your best asset now is the people you don't know who know the people you know. It is the people with whom you are least connected who offer you the most opportunities. So with your own tribe, you share in-jokes, you don't have to prove yourself, you share your deep religious commitment or skepticism, but your close ties cannot open the door to new ideas, novel experiences, and opportunities. And these are the words of sociologist Dalton Conley, who says, need a shoulder to cry on, turn to a close friend. But for romance and finding a job, focus on the folks who don't know the rest of your peeps. Reaching out to weak ties means overcoming fears, laziness, and reliance on luck. It means reminding yourself that helping is hardwired into the species. Neurobiologists can now prove what every faith tradition is built upon. Helping is actually habit forming. It creates all of the good drugs. Endorphins, dopamine, oxytocin, reduced cortisol. It creates antibodies. It prolongs life. This is called the helper's high. We therapists, all these chaplains, addicts. But getting help requires preparation, finesse, and good timing. It is a curriculum many of you have already learned as students. In college, it doesn't work if you raise your hand in class like a 7th grader and say, teacher, teacher, will this be on the It does work if you do the reading, struggle as far as you can on your own, and go to the professor for help unpacking a concept, an assignment, or the best way to prepare for the final. You also found that you didn't curry favor if you argued about the injustice of your grade after the fact, or had your parent call the dean to complain about how the professor's teaching style just never quite gelled with your learning style. But if you went to see the professors with a rough draft well before the due date, they not only didn't think you were dumb, they gave you a better So, why did you write that book about that thing you wrote about at that time that you wrote it? And I want to say that to these folks who have come to class without their homework, none of your business. And then other people start the interview by quoting a line from my writing so specific and interesting that I think, I wrote that? Wow. Anything else of that caliber that you've come across in that? And those poor journalists have a very hard time getting me off the phone. So no one gets a helper's high if the seeker is seen as a loafer, a leech, or asking the other person to do something they can and should be doing themselves. Ben Franklin was a master of the ask. He knew how to get support not only from weak ties, but from haters. Franklin writes in his autobiography about how he dealt with the animosity of a rival Pennsylvania legislator. And this is directly from his autobiography. Having heard that he had in his library a certain very scarce and curious book, I wrote a note to him, handwriting, remember that? Expressing my desire of perusing that book and requesting that he would do me the favor of lending it to me for a few days. He sent it immediately, and I returned it about a week later with another note, expressing strongly my sense of the favor. When we next met in the house, he spoke to me, which he had never done before, and with great civility. And he ever after manifested a readiness to serve me on all occasions, so that we became great friends, and our friendship continued to his death. The key, Franklin was known as a serious book lover and collector. His opponents saw him as worthy of the loan. This profound experience has come to be known as the Benjamin Franklin effect, more sociology. This is the Benjamin Franklin effect. He that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he whom you yourself have obliged to help you by. So, I say to you graduates, welcome your freedom from those bound by blood or duty or salary to smooth the way for you. Welcome your freedom from those who have talked it over a great deal and determined your proper track. Consider pursuing weak ties and making them strong. Kindergarten Trevor may not choose to go the pre-med path, but with his love of sharks, he can approach a Claremont College alum, a fisherman, an animal lover, or marine biologist, and ask to borrow a hook, a book, or to join in a dive. I leave you with the words of Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, who said, "All the world is a narrow bridge. The main thing is not to be afraid." And one of the ways to keep up your courage is to look for ballast in the onion.com. And I have to do it every single day. My poor husband is here every night. We just read each other in bed onion headlines. Am I oversharing? So, the recent onion headline I loved so much is "Nation sick of looming stuff." Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of the graduates.
rise now for the benediction. May the God of bountiful gifts bless you and keep you.
May the Holy One's presence shine on you, be gracious to you, and lift you up with tenderness.
And may God grant you peace.
Let us say together. Amen.